Welcome back, team. We're back at the home base. All right, your boy Ahmed, your boy Rav. We're here to talk to you about a lot of stuff. All right, Ahmed already has his gun. He's ready in case China or somebody else acts up. But, we're all ready. And man, a lot of things have happened in the last 24 hours that have completely brought us back to like the beginning of 2024 without any tariffs or very little tariffs. So, yeah, so Ahmed, do you want to give any warm thoughts before we begin this podcast?
Well, I'd first like to start off with welcome back, guys. Welcome
To
to our
the Outsider
podcast.
Insider
Really
podcast.
appreciate the outsider, primarily outsider podcast, but we really appreciate you guys subscribing. We see that you guys have liked the content prior, and we're going to open the doors for anyone that's willing to join us. We'd love to have you.
Exactly.
Let's begin. Let's
Uh,
begin the podcast
all
with
right. So we got a bunch of
Donald Trump.
topics. Yeah, yeah.
Donald Trump and his bipolar behavior.
So the taco behavior has updated a little bit, and I think I'm gonna come back to why I think the taco thing has bit us in the butt a little bit. But all right, so a lot of stuff has happened. So Trump obviously he met a lot of the world leaders over there in China, and or that he met the Chinese pretty much delegate, all the people over there, and he even met Mark Carney, and they had some thoughts to say, but pretty much the main consensus is don't worry about what has happened the last few months of beef between us. That's pretty much the consensus. Almost everything that has happened to export restrictions and to even some of the tariffs have gone completely out of the water. Now, this is not just saying from the Trump side, because I know it's very easy to just say, oh, the USA has said this, but what has China also said? The state media in China has also repeated. So I'll go over a little bit of what has happened. Then I want your thoughts on it. I want your ideas. So pretty much regarding Canada, which is our main, our main bread and butter, right? Our friends over here in Canada. Trump said he had a very good conversation with Mark Carney. So he said he had a very proper Mark Carney. Now, compared to the Chinese, he said, oh, he's like a range of 10. 10 could be the best in China. We had a 12. Okay. So that's how his conversation with China went. In Canada, he didn't mention anything like that. He just said he had a very good conversation with the Chinese with Carney. My apologies, sir, for all the text messages. I'm gonna put my phone on do not disturb now, so we don't get any more ding ding dings. But pretty much, no actual trade thoughts have been crossing Canada or China at this moment in time. Sorry, Canada and the USA at this moment in time. It is pretty much all just said that they had a good conversation. And there is nothing that's leading me to believe that there are actual trade conversations. There are still conversations between, obviously, two people on the border. We're literally the second biggest trading partner in the world with the USA, second or third, depending on what time of the year you're looking at it. And so, they're still having a conversation. They're just not having the conversation that Canadians need them to have. But so pretty much some of the consensus that came out of this conversation was the Chinese minerals are going to now no longer be no longer be prods. They're going to be brought back into the market. All right, so big up. All right, so the stress that everybody had, the big ups you had from buying into all those mineral companies, they might be going down the drain. All right, so be a little careful with your bags holding on that one. All right. Now the second big thing is the fentanyl tariffs that were 20% that were done on China decreased by 10%, and Nvidia is going to be allowed to resell into the Chinese market, and it's going to be instructed by the White House. White House pretty much going to act like a middleman. They're still not going to allow Nvidia to process their most advanced chips, but they're going to be able to let them take down their pretty much washboarded versions of their chips. And so, pretty much, total tariff in China went from 57 to 47. Great news. China said they will also start buying soybeans and stuff from the farmers again. That's great news for the USA. So it looks like the USA took a bunch of dubs, and Canada is still not taking a bunch of dubs. Now, the state media in China, they have pretty much also told pretty much the citizens of China that cooperation between the two biggest nations is a necessity. So they're pretty much right on board, and they don't like the idea that there's retaliation from either side. So I think it's very fair to say that any stress between the China and the USA is pretty much getting flagged away. Now, who knows what actually happens? These are just empty words until actions are taken upon them. But I do like to see the direction that these guys are going and rebuilding more better connections. What do you think about all of this conversation that I have brought on?
Just like you said, you don't directly correlate the cause and effect until something actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that because I feel like to our viewer, one of the things that I think would be more relevant is the gas prices or the things that the typical person, how does this apply to us?
Mm-hmm.
And I know right now, one of my buddies is a business owner, and I've had extensive conversation with him. He has a lot of his trade has to correlate with China. He has manufacturing of disc brakes over in China and he ships them over here. We mentioned this, I think, in the last
Last
podcast.
episode, yes.
And I think this not only reflects on like my buddy, but I think it reflects on a bigger scale. I think the average consumer, like you said, those two big economies, them not being friends reflects on everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
This would reduce the quality of living everywhere because it reflects the economic conditions on the rest of the world. You have the U.S. being the world reserve currency, and their currency ties with all other currencies.
Mm-hmm.
And when its value decreases, they also decrease even worse. Kind of like Bitcoin dominance within crypto. When Bitcoin goes up in value, you get a higher, let's say 5% on Bitcoin, you get Ethereum goes up by 8%.
Mm-hmm.
And then a smaller market cap coin will go up 20%, for example. You have this with like smaller value currencies and higher value currencies. And what I think is I don't trust Trump again. Again, I don't trust what he's saying right now.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't trusted him in the first place because he's been up, down, left, and that's why I said bipolar Trump at the beginning of the video, because I really don't think that he has a.
It is not good for building relationships with the U.S. and Canada. Okay, very, very. Do not put him in the border.
I don't intend to speak for Canada or speak for Trump. I speak for myself. The U.S. I only speak for what I see.
You speak for the Outsider Insider podcast.
Exactly. I speak for the person that listens, and I think that if I work within my best interest and express that, it'll affect the viewer. The viewer will work in their best interest, and hopefully we could come out of this unscathed with this up, down, left, right, Donald Trump combo. And what I really want to bring it back to is this idea that we all benefit from positive economic correlations. And I think Canada's definitely underexposed. One of the guys that I really like to watch and listen to is this guy called Kevin O'Leary, if you've heard of him.
No, who has not? Yeah.
And I think this bringing this up will kind of push us into the next subtopic that we want to talk about. Kevin O'Leary is big on Alberta's oil, and we've even talked about last video, the failure of the Keystone XL pipeline, and even now with the uranium thing that you mentioned last, that's awful news to me. But Kevin O'Leary is a globalist investor, and he thinks that the cheap energy that Alberta could offer would allow him to build a database or something to do
a supermassive database, biggest in the world, in Alberta.
Exactly, the bread and butter of AI. And me and Rav have had extensive conversations on this, and I think Rav, I'd love for you to share your opinion, because this opinion I think is of value to me and the person watching this.
Mm-hmm.
So, within the thesis that AI is going to grow, you should invest with Rav's thesis, and I think Rav's thesis is playing out as we speak. And much like we've talked about Oracle and how they're such a big giant within the American economy, and them shifting to databases, much like Kevin O'Leary's, the suggestion from Kevin O'Leary. I think anything under the umbrella of AI is going to be increasing your. You're going to make money if you fall in line with Rav's thesis, and that Rav's thesis suggests that if you buy energy in correlation to AI, if you buy companies that work on data, and this is where I think Rav, you take over and you talk about how all the data providers play into this AI narrative.
All right, yeah. Well, again, I'll give my quick consensus on what Trump has done for the U.S. versus Canada. Trump has done fantastic, in my opinion, in results to what's just happened in the last 24 hours. Right? Obviously, he's the person who initiated the fight, but he is now getting a pretty solid deal out of it. Where again, if you were looking at the last 2 months, the biggest stresses in the USA were farmers not going to be able to sell their crops. Right? It was going to be the Chinese economy no longer sending us minerals. Right, again, and these were counter tariffs to their tariffs, right? So I don't want anyone to think that I'm missing the point that he's the one who started this. But Trump is very much of I did the deal, and he did do a deal in this case, right? So we're still getting back the minerals, and everybody's stressed out for these little pieces of work here. No more stress. And again, this brings back to the point that I had in the last video, which is like you can't control the big macro picture. Control the micro that you can control, because it's irrelevant to you what the farmers can and cannot sell unless you're a farmer yourself. It's irrelevant to you how the steel industry is doing in Canada if that's not your industry, right? Now, obviously, there's correlation but the correlation is not going to take away from you being able to pay your mortgage, pay your rent, pay your grocery bills, right? As long as you have good skills and you're able to diversify into different jobs. Now, in terms of Canada, what has Canada been doing? And after this, I'll jump over to your pretty much your what you would like me to speak about.
I really like what you're currently talking about,
Yeah,
although I didn't mention it earlier.
yeah.
But
Mark
I
Carney
think
has to
there should
still,
be a further, before you continue, sorry.
yeah, yeah,
I really don't want to interject or cause any, but I really think that understand as a consumer, as a viewer, I think being at least somewhat educated on what's happening on a macro scale, although it's irrelevant to you, I think focusing in on it and understanding the narratives that drive an investment thesis and investing in line with that is very beneficial.
yeah.
One of the
Never,
things that
never
just
take that away. Yes.
is you said that, and I'm not sure if this is correct or not. I'm asking you a question, Rev.
Yeah.
Do you think the agricultural angle, the soybeans, what was the value proposition between China and America? Did they buckle when it came to the tariffs, the counter tariffs that Trump did through agriculture?
Yeah.
Because you're
So
talking
pretty
about
much,
farmers right now.
yeah. So
They
the pretty
wanted the
much,
soybeans for
yeah. So China is one of the biggest buyers of soybeans from the USA. They buy a lot of farming
yeah,
products. They have a lot of
yeah,
people,
yeah.
man. They have a lot of people, right? But I also think it has
High
some to do
population.
with not with just how relevancy, right? Like the China, it's like think of it like this: when you have the two biggest trading economies, it's like this. I want you to buy this product of mine, but I know you don't need it. But what I'm going to do is I'll buy something else from you, so that you have something else you can get off your chest, so that you're able to buy this instead, right? A lot of times this happens, right? Like right now, the conversation I wanted to have was Mark Carney in South Korea right now, going to shipyards to develop nuclear submarines, right? Sounds great on
Yes.
picture, and you know what? This I want to say this before saying any negative and anything positive about Mark Carney. I do not blame a man for not getting a deal done in 90 days, nor 100 days, nor 200 days, or even a year. I understand that the long term play is different from the day to day operations, right? Now, there should have been stuff, and I feel like there's a lot of stuff that could have been done already to boost the economy, which has not been done. But until I see the final play come out, like for example, if he has a 5 year play, but the first year was supposed to be completely devastation, it's not something that me and you are going to know, right? I mean, we can only talk about this on the outside and not on the inside, as we're not in his direct cabinet. But hopefully, hoping that there is a better plan in place, because right now, pretty much what he wants to advise is by 2030 we're going to have 3 to 4 nuclear submarines. And here's my question to you: one of the deals that he's trying to make with the South Koreans is to bring those submarines to the USA to develop them here, right? Now, obviously, the problem with this, it's going to take a lot longer. My whole consensus on this was, while China and the USA were making a good deal where it was helping their economies, Mark Carney is focusing on the wrong thing. Weaponry is very important to develop, right? And so developing your military is fantastic. However, I don't see the incentive of why he doesn't just say, hey, instead of just also developing the Canadian submarines, what will it take for us to get this South Korean company, a really, really good company of building nuclear submarines? What's going to take from them to bring over their business to Canada? So why don't you start developing Canadian submarines, but also submarines for the rest of the world? And maybe it's tax structure, maybe it's they need help developing the tech, maybe it's they need help developing the shipyards. But that is what I want. I don't just want us to have military weaponry. I want us to be a manufacturing power as well. I want us to allow these companies to come in and to go on these. Now, obviously, we don't know what the deal is going to be at the end of the day. I could be completely wrong, completely right in my consensus, but I would just wish to see a little bit more, because I want to see how much, if we bring in these big companies that develop this tech that the world needs, we will find money, and money will thrive in. That's just what I wanted to say on that point. Yeah, I might have jumped the gun on that one a little bit, just because I don't know if you fully got the industry. But did you get my consensus on it or no?
I'm still thinking about what you just suggested, and I have some stuff to share as well. But
Yes,
um,
please
so
feel free.
within the context of Canada and it becoming a financial success,
Yes.
obviously the financials correlate with everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Financials correlate with the quality of living, and the quality of living correlates to like um, rates of like what's it called? It benefits society in a way that it just flows. There's order rather than
Yeah,
chaos.
yeah.
There's less people.
Mm-hmm.
People don't steal or they don't shoplift when there's abundance of wealth and there's money. These problems only arise, these
With
social
more
problems.
poverty.
If you simulated it, you'd get an increase. So I see you definitely have a point, and it makes sense to me. Why the hell are we not opening the doors to Canada? We're opening the doors to immigration,
Mm-hmm.
but we're opening it, and that opening is not bringing in any positives, like we've discussed earlier. There's a lot of predatory institutions that are trying to get people to pay ridiculous amounts of money from other parts of the world just to get into Canada. And when they do get into Canada, it's not the value proposition they assumed.
Yeah, yeah. Because we don't have
So
the
that
infrastructure
that,
built
that
here for any of these people.
so I could beyond the shadow of doubt say that was a stupid move on Canada.
Hmm.
I don't mean to bash Canada, but this is not what we want to be doing. We want to be doing what Rav is suggesting, opening the doors to better
Hmm.
to for militarization. Not only that, I think that I'm of the opinion that Canada should do exactly what Peter Lougheed, the great leader that we mentioned earlier. We should diversify.
Hmm.
We shouldn't be reliant on one thing. And Peter Lougheed suggested that we shouldn't be reliant on oil and gas. And I think similarly, we should not be reliant on the U.S. Government and the U.S. Economic superpower.
Hmm.
And if we were able to generate our own income in a way that it would positively reflect our ability to negotiate deals, and it would positively reflect the quality of living in Canada. I'm pro Canada. I like the freedom that currently exists, and I would be a hypocrite to say that I'm not privileged to be. I'm taking. I would be hypocrite to say that I do not enjoy
The
or
fruits of the labor
being
provided by
Canadian.
Canada.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
so
understand what you're saying.
I'm of the opinion that Canada should definitely open its borders. The Korea deal kind of sparks my interest because I read a lot of news within the crypto space, and my theses are kind of fragmented, but some of them have some more concrete than others. Several theses I have,
Uh huh.
but I think that liquidity is going to be directly affected by Web3. We've mentioned Web1, Web2, and Web3. And one of the things I've just seen on the news is PayPal has introduced 4 stablecoins. Stablecoins. Rav, have you heard about stablecoins and stablecoin legislation that Trump
I
is?
have, yes, yes. But why don't you explain to the viewer?
So to put it in short term, because we're really trying to be aware of the time sensitive nature of explaining the theses, right? And we're talking about military. So the military expenditure of Canada. Um, before I jump into crypto, I think we should polish off this last narrative
Hmm.
and
Let's finish
talk
off this
about
topic, and then we'll
drones.
jump into the Web3.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
drones.
So yeah. So
So
before we get into this,
you,
now
you-
what could
yeah,
Mark
let
Carney
me
be
ask you a
doing?
question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that the expenditures of so and so money on the nuclear side
Hmm.
would be more efficient if it was allocated to drone?
Well, I think I have to think about quantity as well, right? So with 4 nuclear
Yeah,
submarines, you need a lot of people to manage this stuff, which is great. That means a lot of jobs, right? But what else can we do that can provide even more manufacturing jobs? Just for example, just an idea that I had out there is right now in warfare, it looks like the future of warfare will be mechanical. Whether that's mechanical drones, mechanical dogs. I know you've all seen the videos. You never know how effective those things are, but mostly drones. I don't
yeah.
understand why, if Ukraine needs so many drones to obviously fight off Russian invasions, why Canada doesn't try to redevelop their steel mills into drone mills. Why can't we start mass producing drones? Why can't we be like China over there, where they have DJI, where they built the most amount of drones? And clearly they're making money. Why can't Canada start developing drones as well? The only reason why I'm saying this is for 2 things. First thing is nuclear submarines amazing, and it's something you should be working really hard in the background. But making 4 nuclear submarines, how many people do you think that's going to employ? Versus if you're making thousands and thousands of drones, how much money do you think you're going to have to be spending on labor? How much money do you think you're going to have to be spending on people? So if we're looking at how do we push the economy into a great path, is by providing more jobs. And so I'm looking at the macro sense of what can we do that has quantity to it. And the only real thing I think about is not nuclear submarines, because again, it's the South Koreans that are going to be working on it. They have the infrastructure to build it. So we're paying the South Koreans for weaponry. But how do we develop our own weaponry? How do we develop our own sovereignty? How do we develop our economy? And the way I think we can do that is, hey, listen, if steel is not, clearly the USA does not want our steel. They're trying their best to make their steel at home. So let's say even right now, let's say we win the war and on steel, and we can hold their steel. What do you think is going to happen in 2 years? You think they're not going to be trying to develop their own steel, right? They're definitely going to be trying to develop their own steel. Even the UK, do you know the UK, they had to nationalize their steel mill. They only had one steel mill left. They had to nationalize it as security, because it's losing money because they can just import crazy cheap steel from Japan. and that's where the world's getting its majority of steel from. But so if we see that this is an unsustainable path, why don't either we sell our steel outwards, which we can do, but we can't compete with Japan. Their labor laws are so much cheaper than ours. But why don't we develop tech? Like, have you ever seen that thing which is like a rock is worth nothing, but like if it's a rock full of cobalt, you can break it down, develop it into chips that are worth thousands of dollars. All of a sudden, it's something that's worth nothing gets developed into this. Well, the same things with tech, right? If you're developing drones and we're developing the most advanced drones, and we can develop drones that combat the U.S., combat China, what do you think the rest of the world's going to do when they need to develop drones? They're going to come to us for our tech. They're going to come to us to buy our drones, right? And the only other main reason why I bring this up is none of the other world really focus on drones other than China and Ukraine. And the USA says they want to focus on drones, but they are not doing that yet. So we have an ability to take advantage of a situation where we might be the third in charge of drones for a little while. And so it's this idea, again, just ideas. But these are just stuff I think about when I try to find solutions. I think Mark Carney is looking for solutions, but he's looking at the wrong thing. Again, even if you're able to convince this company to go overseas into the US, into the Canadian market, my apologies, it still takes a crazy amount of time. And again, you can provide great construction jobs while you're trying to develop these ports. But again, those are temporary positions, right? How do we maximize our people? And that's what I think about.
So what I really like was what you mentioned, how um, the future of warfare is robotic.
Again, yeah, that's just my idea, right? This is my idea. It could work, could not. It's just my opinion.
I don't think it's only. I don't think it's an opinion that doesn't have any base to stand upon. I think it's definitely there. It's definitely part of the equation. And you mentioned the economic implications, and one of the things that I was thinking of as you were speaking on this is Germany during the World War, I think World War II. They had a huge the byproduct of war, and the infrastructure that they created.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you said, we're going to South Korea for their infrastructure.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that we went to South Korea for infrastructure because it's a good value buy on our end.
It is, but again, it's helping when you buy foreign instead of trying to develop it at home. All you're doing is you're helping their economy, which is great. I'd love to help South Korea because they're big allies of us. But man, how do we develop it at home?
What Rav is saying, and it completely makes sense. Why don't we have it here? Why don't we pay our own people? Well, I think that argument has to do with the currency value. Uh-huh. So one of the things that I've noticed, and I think within Trump's deck of cards, because I don't trust them right now, and warfare is definitely something that is continually happening. There's wars all over the world, and that thesis stands on its own without that much of a thesis required. Uh-huh. So your investment into ARCAT and drones is beyond plausibility.
And Unusual Machines, that stuff's flying high too. Unusual Machines is doing pretty solid as well.
Yeah, ARCAT does drones, and they have a contract with
Unusual Machines, which develops components. Yes,
this is within Rav's arsenal, and within my arsenal, I've invested myself. This is not financial advice. We're not financial advisors.
Yeah, we're outsider insiders.
Yeah, but I think that whoever can logically deduce and understand that we're actually speaking on something that is going to happen and is somewhat inevitable. Mm-hmm. War is just part of I think the human psychological expression.
Like here, this actually brings us on to another topic. I'm just gonna bring this portion into it because I want to hear your opinion on this as well. Right now, the USA just today announced, Trump announced that he's going to tell the Pentagon to start doing nuclear testing again. And nuclear warhead testing. So nuclear bombs are now once again in the USA. But again, they're doing this, as they said, to counter other countries testing their arsenal out, right? But you have to understand, the only way to make true peace is by showing true dominance, right? The mutual destruction is the consensus they're going on, is the reason why everybody's scared, right? But so just again goes to show, you don't need to buy a nuclear. You still have to test, and that's why, I want to start building manufacturing at home, right? Just like how in the USA, that's what they're trying to do. Now, obviously, you can find this stuff cheaper, but man, once you innovate enough, like Nvidia, look at the chips at it. There's so many places in the world where it's so much cheaper to build these chips, where it's able to develop these chips. But then why is it so expensive to buy these chips? Is because the tech is so advanced that only a country like Canada or Taiwan, where they have this infrastructure in place, can build it, right?
So, Rob, what you're saying makes sense, but I need to introduce something to the simulated reality that is you're predicating your thesis on. Mm-hmm. And I agree with your thesis. Your thesis is beyond I genuinely think you have a solid thesis, and
I appreciate it.
I not only I know
We'll
not
see,
only
buddy.
think
We'll see.
I act upon it. I just told the viewer and that I reflects in my investment portfolio. But
Mhm.
so what I think you brought up is very important. It is the logic. If you were to logically deduce what Trump is up to, with the on-off tariff, on-off, on-off, what
Mhm.
you would come up with, and I said like before, I like to stand on the shoulders of giants. What I mean by that is you have to look at someone who studied something longer than you, interpret what they've said,
Mhm.
and then make logical deductions off of a framework that they've established. Because their frameworks are highly efficient because they've dealt with the problem for longer. Now,
Mhm.
I love to bring this up, even in conversation, not even on the podcast, but I think the podcast is the perfect place to bring this up. Ray Dalio's Changing World Order. You could either watch the 20-minute video on YouTube. That'll give
No,
you
read the book. Read the book. It's amazing.
I know, but obviously the user is probably
Yo, the
busy,
use.
and
I want people who watch this video to be
they should,
educated. Yeah, man. Don't
100%.
read
But
the book. It's
the
amazing. It's amazing. Such an
what
amazing
I'm
book.
basically what I'm basically expressing is I encourage you to read the book, but at the bare minimum, watch the video.
Uh
The
huh.
20-minute bare minimum, watch the
Yeah,
video.
yeah, yeah. I could go with that.
Um, and the things that he mentions along the lines of economic warfare are very relevant to this. And what usually happens prior to direct warfare is economic warfare.
Mhm.
And so what we're seeing is Trump, as I said earlier, the bipolar disorder, is turning on and off tariffs, and he's creating. They're playing a tug of war,
Mhm.
and I think the beans, the magic beans, the China wanted, they got it. They agreed to this deal because I think they were squeezed on the agricultural side.
Uh huh.
The huge population. They actually, from what I know, have the largest store of grain, like
Yeah,
wheat.
they have a lot of like they're ahead of the rest of the world in a bunch of stuff. I don't know about the
They
grain portion, but I wouldn't be surprised.
the argument is further established when we talked about earlier in another video how quick they build the roads,
Mhm.
how much they spend on infrastructure. Their mega cities are beyond. So what they are actually concerned are their people. I
Mhm.
think that China is concerned about the quality of living of their people. I see videos online of so much public spend from the government side. I don't need to articulate further, but there's obviously poor people there and rich people there, but they do inject a lot of their money, a lot of their focus on exports, creating manufacturing inside of their
Yeah,
countries, not like Canada, and they rely upon a cheap currency to do that.
yeah. They've been known to break down the currency, so companies still keep buying from their products versus anyone else. They've been known to do that.
I think the third vector that we should add to Rav's argument is, and I'm going to ask you this question, and I think that it's relevant. Uh, does Canada have to reduce its currency value on a unit basis, one individual dollar, to
It would.
increase its export potential? Because what happens is, as you reduce the dollar's value with
Yes.
whichever country you are, or if you're predisposed like China to already have a lower value on their currency, RMB or whatever it's called, it affects exports and affects how they geopolitically trade and affects this tariff war. So what I think is Trump is like, let me, I'm heading towards war. We're playing the tug of war. I'm turning on the tariffs and turning them off, but I'm doing them to ensure that I'm stable through every drop,
Hmm.
that I'm able to feed my army and be prepared for war as we're going into this financial. Uh, and the reason the reason I'm bringing this up is I think there's a time constraint. What do I mean by this? There's a $38 trillion debt that's looming over them.
Now we're
And the
talking about
Chinese are
the
well aware.
idea that Ahmed has, and it's a very interesting idea. So cannot wait for you to tell this to the audience. So I'm gonna stay quiet on this one because this is mostly your idea on how you think this is gonna work. So we're gonna see how it plays out.
The vector that you mentioned, and I really think Canada should be doing this. Your points are completely valid. That you need to bring infrastructure to build, to do our own deals inside and
Mhm.
to push. And I've explained this in the prior argument 2 minutes ago that we should push away from reliance on not only oil and gas but the U.S. We
Mhm.
need to be our own country. But even Alberta is now so desperate under the conditional constraints of the world reserve currency getting getting crushed. When
Mhm.
COVID happened, they printed 8 times the money supply, and I think that reflected not on the rich people, but more so the quality of living in America, and that squeezed Canada into a predisposed condition. So there's things that happened within the time sensitive thing. You can't just recreate a structural law and or what I mean is you cannot just edit the legal framework in Canada to benefit the Canadians, you have to take into consideration what has happened on the global scale within the world reserve currency. It affects everyone. And so I think within the best interest of Trump is to destroy the value of the dollar,
Mm-hmm.
to get it down so that they could export a bunch of goods because they want to do what South Korea is doing. They want to offer either a service
Mm-hmm.
or they want you to buy their product. And much like you mentioned earlier, it's a tug of war, but it's warfare. End of the day, it's warfare. It's financial warfare. And I think the time constraint of $38 trillion is applying to Trump. He's trying to circumnavigate the future. He's
Mm-hmm.
trying to look far, far ahead. And he's trying to see how he could get out of the negative situation he's in with the $38 trillion of debt.
Uh-huh.
And so he's almost turning on the accelerator and turning it off. And I think the closer and closer, the more ebb and flow, the more volatility we get, the richer these bankers are going to get because they have algos that manipulate. They love volatility. But what's going to happen is the institutions are going to take more of the wealth, and the people are going to be left behind because they don't have as much assets.
Mm-hmm.
And so the value of the dollar simultaneously will drop, and the asset ownership of the middle class and the poor will proportionally drop because they'll have less to invest. And so there's a time constraint that applies to Trump and a time constraint that applies to you, the viewer.
Uh-huh.
You need to accumulate assets that proportionally go up with the volatility this asshole Trump is doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm very quick to not mention asshole Trump because of course Trump gets his financial advice from us. I don't want him changing that. But again,
You're right.
the thesis that
Trump's
you
not
have.
an asshole. I don't have a political view on Trump, but
No, it's always
I'm
good to
just
have political views,
working
right?
within the best interest of the
Yeah.
average person, not
There
not
is
the
something
politics.
that Trump said that I really did like. This I don't remember when this was. This was a long time ago. But he said that somebody asked him, why do you speak so highly of Putin instead of calling them a dictator? He's like,
Yeah,
what good does it do by calling somebody that I might have to trade with eventually a stupid
exactly.
name? And that's what I say, right? There's smart stuff that everybody can do, and there's stupid stuff. And in Canada, we're very like yesterday, the video that we made, I was literally trying to defend Canada while you were bashing it. Well, we both know you love Canada. That's literally why you're here. You've been to Australia. You've been all over the
Yes.
world, man, and you still choose to live here, right? And so
Yeah.
there's good and bad, right? And if you're gonna ask me, Rav, oh, you love Canada, it's so good, bro.
I'm going to.
Completely wrong.
I need to backtrack. Me and Rav are friends, and I think
By
Rav in the future is
association, we never liked each other. I'm joking.
what Rav is expressing right now is his ability to foresee events in the future. He wants to be the
Yeah.
prime minister of Canada,
Uh-huh.
and he wants this podcast to have some really good pre-context to further negotiations.
Hmm.
So I really admire that in Rav and the ability to see the future.
I
And I
appreciate that,
think
man. I appreciate it.
if he goes to be prime minister, I'm definitely backing him, and I'm not going to do anything to destroy that narrative. So Trump is great because he's trying to work within the best interest of the U.S.
But here, of course, but
In
maybe he's not.
respect to
Maybe he
that,
is,
he
right?
has
Like
not
again,
done deals.
you.
He's not
But
done deals for us, buddy. I love Canada, and I want Canada to succeed. So in the context of the negotiations, he's actually taking more of our. He's
yeah.
not taking our time.
Well, I like to. The question I have now is, and the question that I like to make sure everything is I like your consensus because it is very true. I've seen many other countries they reduce the value of their currency so that more and more people buy from them because that will indirectly lead to the economy still growing even if the dollar or the price of the thing falls down. The little difference is the USA still has reserve currency, so I think their main thing would be to never lose that. So I think they want to do anything possible not to lose their credit rating, which is like the AA plus or whatever it's called, right? Now,
Yes.
so your consensus definitely does have merit behind it, right? Now, I think that might be a last term. Like, I could even see Canada doing it, right? If you want to export more than what you import, like the best thing you could do is make your products cheaper, right? That's literally the China game plan. Like, if you look at China's book, number first rule is make sure your product is cheaper than the competitor market, than the market. And then why would somebody not choose it? If you're buying two phones, bro, imagine you buy two iPhones and one of the iPhones is 50% off. Where would you buy your iPhone from? The place is 50% off if it's the same product, right? And so
But
you definitely.
obviously, value buying in retrospect, I think one thing to add to what the narrative that you're expressing right now, I don't mean to cut you off,
Yeah, yeah,
is China had a reputation of made in China.
yeah.
Oh,
The
that's
cheap,
bad.
and that's
They've
actually what I want to
they've
get to.
worked.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So now you have to be careful not to do that so much. Where now because if your product is so insuperior to the other product on the market, then everyone's like, oh, which two do I get? Because then it is a value proposition where, oh, it's 50% off, but it's going to break in 1 week versus it's 50% more, but it's going to last a year.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like there's so much different parts of the economy to this. So your thesis is a very interesting thesis, and I'd be very like hesitant to just uncredit at the same time, because as we've seen from this administration, nobody really knows what's going to happen, right? The only people who are going to know are the actual insiders, and as mentioned, we are the outsider insiders, right? But I don't think it is just like when we look at Canada. The other biggest trading partner that the USA has is right south of them, Mexico. And Mexico, although it does have pressure on them, they were doing so much worse stuff with so many more drugs coming in off the border. There are literally jokes about it. There's movies about it, because everybody knows how apparent it is. And yet, I do think the relationship between Mexico and China and the USA is a lot better than the relationship between Canada and the USA at this moment in time. Even though I would say we had way less issues with the USA in the beginning portion. So I think it's just a very big issue of also Taco. I think also did not help us too much. I know we even said on the podcast, but I think antagonizing Trump, where you're like, oh, this guy just keeps backing out of everything he's saying, is just gonna make him be like, oh, you think I'm gonna back out? You think I'm gonna back out? It's just gonna make ego play in the matter, right? Yeah.
Before we move on, I really want to understand what you're saying here.
Yeah.
Could you reiterate what taco implies?
Taco is Trump always backs out, or Trump always cowers out, right? And
Bipolar,
but
yeah.
but and a reporter asked him about this, and I think it hit a nerve, right? Because he's like, oh, you think I'm just gonna back out? You think I'm gonna back out? No, buddy. What do you say? My DNA is the USA, right? And so cutting somebody with the ego.
To clarify, sorry to cut you off again. I do not imply any disrespect to anyone.
No. I want to speak your fair value, right? Like, again, at the end of the day, if somebody gets butthurt over this because we have an opinion,
I'm gonna use taco. I'm gonna use taco. Taco's the better analogy. I agree. Yeah.
But again, if your voice today leads to somebody else getting butthurt, bro, fuck those guys. Like, it does not make a difference. Like, again, being butthurt over opinion is stupid. You could have my opinion over me. You can say I'm a Canada lover, I'm a Trump lover, I'm a USA lover, I'm a South Korean lover. You could call me whatever you want, or call me what I'm not, right? It does not make a difference.
I love what you're saying. And I couldn't agree more. I think when a man loses his need to be approved by others, that's when he's empowered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so
I'm not trying to address the people that are throwing or in opposition to my opinion. I'm really trying to explain that if there is genuinely someone in that position, I'm going to be more of the understanding.
Yeah, of course.
I don't intend to cause harm.
No, but I want you to speak your mind, right? Like the main reason why I wanted to do a podcast with you. Yeah. I've been telling Ahmed, I want you. Yeah, I told him, we go to the gym together. Genuinely. We're lifting this heavy ass weight. Yes. And we're sitting there talking for 20 minutes between our sets, which is again ruining it. And we're like, yo, man, if we literally just recorded this, I think some people would listen to it. Some people hate us. Some people would love us. But all right, let's move on from these topics of politics and move on to what our bread and butter is, which is a lot of price earnings from a lot of companies. And Ahmed, I want you to hear this, buddy. All right, are you ready? All right. So first thing, Microsoft came out. Now, yesterday we talked a lot about if you watched our podcast before this, we talk a lot about the data centers, whether it's Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, whatever, Oracle, whatever you guys wanted to go. But we didn't talk about Google. And Google, man, they have a very, very strong rating. Okay, so let's look. So Google made the most amount of money this quarter than it's ever made in any other quarter, $100 billion. Bro, give me 1% of that. I'm gonna be happy for the rest of my life. Okay, that's all I need. But Google Cloud Division, which is the same as Microsoft Azure, which is a bunch of cloud services and data centers that Google pays for. There's even some here in Calgary. If you go downtown, there's 3 of them. It's very nice. They're very huge. Bro, they had 34% growth in this quarter. They are averaging 30 to 50% growth every single quarter. So this just, again, hypes up the hype of Google, Alphabet. And this is also just hyping up the aspect of data centers, right? Like, there's still a clear need for data processing power. Now, the second one is Microsoft also came out with earnings, and we're going to cut to Microsoft's Azure division, which grew by 39%. So even think about a business worth trillions of dollars going up by 39%. Now, obviously, that's not reflected exactly in the stock price, because obviously Azure is just one part of Microsoft's business, but it's easily becoming the biggest.
That's cash flow. That's cash flow.
Cash flow, yes, 34% growth. Yeah. And so NVIDIA now, not NVIDIA, but as you can see, We're gonna get to Nvidia's topic on another time, but clearly all of these web services are clearly doing a lot, and our consensus that we follow on this platform until proven otherwise is energy need will still skyrocket. And I want to point out something. The bigger this number keeps getting, the growth it is getting, energy is going to become more costly. And there's one thing I did want to mention, and that's because I know some people did mention to me, oh, what happens if AI fails? So if AI does turn out to be what it's supposed to be, what do we do with this excess energy? I give you my consensus. When has it ever been worse to have too much energy? When have you heard somebody say in your life, we have too much energy? Never. Because guess what? The prices of your house, the price of natural gas, the price of everything comes down as energy costs go down. So let's just say the byproduct of this is we overspent the money on energy. And so ExxonMobil now just has so much more oil, which obviously makes the barrel of oil lower, right? That's bad for ExxonMobil in the short run. But what does it help for the economy? Even better, lower energy costs for
One thing
anybody means cheaper
I
utilities,
love this.
cheaper everything. So
Did
anybody,
you mention this before? Sorry, I think you talked about this.
yes, I believe I spoke with you once about it.
Does it reflect on so a reduced energy cost? Does that reflect on mortgage
Everything,
payments?
every
Yeah, like
single
there's
thing is because
so many things that you could say. Yeah,
literally everything, because it's all indirectly correlated, right? Let me make it easy for you. If households bill of utilities goes down by 25%, what usually happens to it? People are either going to invest 25% more or they're going to buy 25% more. Could you agree with me on that? The money that they're
yeah.
not going to spend on utilities going to just utility companies are going to be spent in the economy. What happens when money flows into the economy? People get more jobs. What happens when more jobs happen? People have more money to spend. What happens when more money is spent? More stuff gets developed. That's literally just how everything works. So I do not see any world where lack of utility, even though the utility stock prices will go down for a short term, is going to indirectly correlate to, oh my god, we have 10,000 extra hours of energy. Like, what are we supposed to do with it? What do you mean what you're supposed to do with it? There's so much to do with energy. Anything revolves around energy. You could sell it back home. You could sell it anything. We talk about the benefits of Alberta energy, and if it's just even cheaper to sell it to the USA or to send it to Canadians, I could not argue that, hey, if cheaper for me to fill up my gasoline, it's a good thing for me. What do you think?
Percent.
Yeah, and so
Like,
that's why one of the reasons why I'm very bullish on energy. But coming out with these numbers, you're probably wondering, oh, if all of these companies are doing so good, why is the stock market actually down today? Well, I'll tell you why. Nothing is going to go up forever, right? If you're not ready to take in the backlash, then don't invest in the first place. But there's many reasons. The first reason is, although all these companies reported record profits, they're also recording records amount of spend for their next quarter in AI development. And so Microsoft is one of those companies which is going to spend a lot more on AI. But you're probably wondering, Google went up by 5% this day today. Why did Microsoft? I think people forget Microsoft doesn't actually own any AI. They're big investors in ChatGPT and OpenAI, and I believe they own 25% of the company, but they don't directly own any AI. Unlike Microsoft, which owns Gemini, which is one of the best models in the entire world right now, and obviously a lot of other companies are coming out trying to put their AI there. Microsoft isn't an exact player in AI, even though they are directly investing into AI. They don't directly own any AI, if that kind of makes sense. And that's why I believe today the stock market's taking a little bit of a dip, because a lot of people are trying to figure out, hey, is it a good idea that these guys are spending so much money in AI? What's next quarter going to say? This quarter was amazing, but what's next quarter going to say? Is there going to be a rate cut next quarter or next month, right? There's a lot of uncertainty in the market. But do you know what uncertainty breeds? Good buying opportunities, all right? If you know, and that's what you can do. If you want to buy your Bitcoin right now, I'm not giving you financial advice. Bitcoin is lower. Our boy Ahmed's not a fan of Bitcoin, but I'm just saying, for anybody who wants to buy anything, cheaper, buying something at a cheaper cost basis is never a bad idea. Dollar cost averaging into the market when it's cheaper is not a bad idea. S&P 500 obviously isn't cheaper when it's only down by 0.4%, and when it's been up 30% for the year since April. But so many other opportunities are still there. I'm still buying my ARCAT. I'm still buying the same stuff that I'm bullish in. I just buy it. What am I going to do? Not buy? I'm just going to buy. That's just
I
my
genuinely,
consensus on it. One other thing I want to tell you before I want you
think
to
it's
speak. One more thing. All right.
yeah, go on.
This was a crazy analogy. On yesterday's episode, we were talking about how Nvidia went from $4 trillion market cap to becoming the first company worth $5 trillion so fast. Let me tell you how fast it was. So do you know how long, Ahmed? And I didn't tell Ahmed these numbers. I told him before the call that I can't wait to share these with him. So obviously it took so long for any company to get over $1 trillion, which was Apple. So for Nvidia to get to $3 trillion to $4 trillion, it took 1 year. That's fast. That's fast. Okay, that means 25% of the growth was done in 1 year. I mean, how fast do you think it took to get to 4 trillion to 5 trillion?
I think that I've expressed this earlier. The guys that I'm not someone who studies AI
Yeah.
directly. People that study AI directly have been off a biometric of 3x, like we mentioned earlier.
Uh-huh.
So I'll do my due diligence and say, I was going to guess 2, but multiply it by 3, we're going to get 6 months.
Okay,
I
6
mean,
months.
6.
Okay,
Yeah.
Ahmed, you're very smart, but you're stupid because it took 78 days to go from 4 trillion
How the,
to
wait,
5
wait.
trillion.
How many? How many?
78 days, less than 3 months.
See, I said 2 months earlier,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
and
doubled
then you were trying to be smart. You're trying to be okay. What a risk converted, but bro,
I was trying to be
78 days, bro. Like god damn, man, god damn.
I
That's
was
scary. That's
I should
scary
have
though,
just left it. Fuck.
bro. That's
I
scary.
was
That's
close.
so
I was
scary to me. I
6
know,
months.
and so
I was
when
still 18. Okay, cool. That's pretty cool.
that's so
That's pretty
scary,
cool.
man. It's so scary how fast that grows up, right? Like we're talking about like trillions of dollars of evaluation in matter of months is ridiculous,
Let's break
ridiculous.
this back. Let's actually wrap this back into I think a core. A core is value hierarchies, right? Like what do I mean by that? Like value. Sorry, value. Let me rephrase that correctly.
See, he can't
Value
even think right
structures.
now. He's like, what the hell?
Value structures.
Uh
And there's a
huh.
reason why I didn't use Bitcoin. I'll extrapolate. I'll explain further as I speak. But I really think that the conversation of billionaire and trillionaire are very relevant to the viewer because they need to understand the value of the dollar is kind of like a shadow clone from Naruto. If you guys watch Naruto,
Yeah, of course. Best show ever.
and although I'm trying to be funny on the topic, I think that it should be of you should give it attention. The value of the dollar does not inherently mean the same thing anymore.
Hmm.
And so, Rav, you're saying it went from trillion A to trillion B and trillion B and C, and I mean, I could literally bring you a trillion Nigerian pesos or whatever it is,
Uh
or
huh.
currencies,
Uh huh.
and it would shock me just to see the jump in $1 trillion value. Like, whoa, that's a big number. I don't give a shit.
Big number.
The dollar, and the reason I disagree is predicated on value, just value.
Hmm.
Value is consensus based. If me and you agree on something, that gives it value. Well, now you're dealing with something that's kind of ambiguous. You're trying to deduce whether the AI sector genuinely has the right logical framework that the consensus hopefully will use to make the logical assumption that the inherent value of the stock is A, B, or C.
Hmm.
Now, the dollar obscures that. And the best way to pull that stupid veil out of front of your eyes is understand that when they print money, they devalue the shit out of it. And I said earlier, they printed 8 times the money supply. So the person is not just assessing something on like the notional $1 trillion market cap value. We should understand that the dynamic of the inherent value of the dollar and how that reflects in your thesis on the value structure within NVIDIA. I don't know. I don't have enough measuring tools to tell you NVIDIA should be 5 trillion, but I'm concerned because I understand that there's an ebb and flow to the market, right?
Uh huh.
Quantitative easy, quantitative tightening, and there's always this state of the third vector, it's not just quantitative easing. The third phase is called a crash.
Uh huh.
2008, we see this shit. People don't have the money to pay their mortgages. Mortgages go to shit. And this is not just one. There is literally the biggest debt bubble for students. Students, right now, the data that I've looked at like a month ago,
Student loans.
it literally said 75% of entry level jobs for a 4 year degree are going to go poof in 3 years. But I'm not looking where the puck is right now. I'm trying to deduce where the puck is going. Only way you're going to make any sort of
I
thesis
like your
and
analogy.
accomplish some sort of value is get in front of the puck.
Hmm.
Don't chase the puck. If you chase the puck, you're going to gas out. You're not going to catch the puck.
That's
So
a great
how
analogy. That's fantastic. That was an amazing analogy. I'm gonna use it.
so what you want to assess, you want to stress test everything
Uh-huh.
before you make any logical deduction on whether or not you should invest in something. You should obsessively, compulsively play devil's advocate with your theses. And
Hmm.
the reason I fucking hate Bitcoin is the same thesis that Kevin O'Leary suggested about Ethereum. And I'm also not an Ethereum holder. I think Ethereum is a great ecosystem. Smart contracts provide real utility. Bitcoin's store of value. No, sure. Funny. I bought it at 10 cents. Keep buying, please. And I'm going to keep this narrative up as long as you keep filling my bag,
Uh-huh.
buying after me. Um, when you stress test Bitcoin, any economy relies upon how good liquidity can flow through it.
Hmm.
When you stress test Bitcoin and you put currency inside of it and you try and transfer it, the speed of the transaction is literally the bottleneck. And the idea of scalability just means how big can this grow without buckling to stress tests. I'm telling you, we are at max capacity, and the Bitcoin value, in my opinion, it's no longer a logical investment. I don't care I don't care about Ponzi-nomics. Ponzi-nomics makes sense. You could make money off of a Ponzi, yes, but I'm never going to invest in a horrible structure. There's liquidity does not flow. Liquidity will not flow efficiently, and the next runner-up that will allow that liquidity will just the best product, just like you mentioned, like the phones, the best product will be the one to buy. The value buy will always win. And what I see is a move to Web3, but not into Ethereum. Kevin O'Leary, and I didn't clarify this, but Kevin O'Leary suggested that, and this is true, he empirically saw Ethereum collapse when integration came on, when people started to integrate. It's about $500 billion in Ethereum.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not too sure, but yeah, there's probably a lot of money.
As soon as Trump says tariff, it goes to like $10 market. But so
I wish,
think,
I'd buy.
Honestly, yeah, smart contracts, they have a value proposition. But I genuinely think the reason they're correlated, the value proposition for me, is because it's embedded in AI. AI will not work on a human logical reasoning. It'll be AI to AI business. And I didn't come up with this myself. I read this in a book where billionaires go meet up in Davos, World Economic Forum, and this guy wrote The Fourth Industrial Revolution. If you guys want to learn more about what the hell they're speculating on and what they have money to enforce their speculations with, go read that book. But what he says in the book, it says that AI and crypto will be tied together. We're talking on value hierarchy within within geopolitical structures, and the geopolitical structures between China and America are going to have to update their liquidity means, which means they're going to have to play these games where they become more efficient on the AI sector or they become more efficient on a liquidity sector. And I've articulated this to you back in 2022. The one thing that we don't have here that they have over there is digital identity. And Larry Fink is someone I watch very closely. I don't hate or love Trump or whatever. I don't really watch what he does as closely in retrospect to someone like Larry Ellison, someone like Elon Musk, someone like Larry Fink. These are capitalists. They work within their best interest. And he said this, and I paid attention when he said this. And I think the viewer will benefit from paying attention to this. The future reiteration of ETFs, and I'm rewording what he's saying, is going to be tokenization. Tokenization has to do with digital identity, and it has to do with stablecoin infrastructure. I genuinely think that AI will embed itself within crypto, and this thesis can be wrong or right, so that AI to AI business can circulate. You've mentioned to me that they got rid of a whole bunch of people with Amazon Web Services.
Yeah, recently. For almost every company, all big companies are doing very big layoffs.
I'm giving one example that is gonna like fractal everywhere else. It'll replicate the same pattern everywhere else. Other companies will do the same thing. Delete a bunch of these workers and put AI in place. But as soon as that's in place, they're going to look for ways to make liquidity flow quicker. And the way they make liquidity flow quicker is they integrate into crypto. And that's why PayPal is integrating into stablecoin. So I think that the viewer would benefit. This would take another whole video, but if you're interested, put it in the comments. We'll talk about it more. I really like the notions that Rav bring within like the huge shift in value of NVIDIA, and it does reflect productivity, but with a little hint of deception of the notional value of the dollar. It's bullshit. You got to be able to discern the narrative. You know what I mean? You have to chase the puck before Trump goes to war. You should know that he has a big debt and that he's going to eventually have to go to war, especially if you have an indication of financial tariffs between two countries. So I think that he's going to destroy the value of the dollar. He's going to inflate prices on assets. Obviously, he owns a bunch of assets.
Yeah.
But this narrative, I think Rav always speculates to me and tells me, gives me devil's advocate. And that's why I really value his opinion. I think within his own right, he's a proof of, he has an empiricism that backs him. I trust what he says because he empirically, over the years that I've known him, has shown that he comes back with results.
I
And I think
appreciate it, man.
anyone can see the value in that. And
Man,
so,
well, let's get this podcast to 1 trillion, and then we'll see how the good results are. But fantastic last part there, my friend. And again, you put a lot of consensus into some stuff, so we should dive a little bit more. I feel because there's such a big ecosystem of what your ideas are, so we should probably dial it to where one part it's easy to consume for average viewer, right? Because Ahmed has a lot of ideas since 2022. Some of them obviously didn't lead anywhere. Some of them led to something I couldn't even believe happened, and so he has very good insights, right? So it's always like the more insights you take from somebody, and you got to put it for probability, right? You probability wise, what he says most likely will not happen. But if it happens, what the fuck?
I think Rav agrees with the consensus, and the consensus has said this time and time again that cryptocurrency will not represent any value or actual logical implication on anything. But I think the truth always lies within a small amount of, so within value distributions, usually a small percentage of people that everyone disagrees with are right.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely don't disagree with what Rav has suggested. My theories within the probable means are of that value distribution expression.
Mm-hmm.
So I could be wrong. It's a small proportion of people that agree with me.
That's why we're the Outsiders our podcast. We have no idea what we're talking about, but we somehow do. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into another video. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning into another video. And Ahmed and me are going to hit leg day today, right?
Yes, sir. We have enjoyed. I've enjoyed this conversation.
Oh, this is an amazing conversation.
I've enjoyed this conversation. You're welcome to subscribe. Leave
Yeah,
any
man.
comments down below.
All right. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Bye bye.